You are listening to Lovely Talks Heavy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lovely Talks Heavy. I am your host, Lovely, and I discuss everything I enjoy with regard to heavy music. So this week, we're going to do something a little bit special. It's going to be a track-by-track review of a very classic album, Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden. It's the 35th anniversary year of it. That's a weird way to put it. 2018 marks 35 years since this album's come out. And to help me with this track-by-track review, I actually have a very special guest on with me. Say hello to my friend Tino.
Hey, Lovely. Hey, everyone.
I guess it would be you're saying hello to everybody and not the other way around, but...
I hope so.
Right.
Thanks for having me
hi to
anyway.
You later. Yeah, no, I'm super excited to have you on here. Tino is one of my good friends. We've been friends for a long, long time at this point. It's kind of surreal, so I only thought it would be appropriate to have you on as my first guest on the show, so thanks for doing this. So
Okay, my pleasure.
yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Peace of Mind, the album. So as I've mentioned, this marks the 35th year anniversary of this album. Any other fun facts you want to throw in there? There's a lot of them, so
Yeah, well, it's the second album with Bruce Dickinson on vocals. Of course, the first one was Number of the Beast. It's the one that came after. Maybe something a little personal, so we get like, it would be normal for us to do a Maiden album because it's a band we both listen to with lots of joy. This is an album that I think usually gets mentioned together with Power Slave, the album that came afterwards. Maybe because they're a little similar in sound and atmosphere, but personally I think this one of those two, if you really, really, really have to choose, one favorite, it will be Peace of Mind, because especially between these two, this one seems a little more consistent, and it's it has so many great songs, so
and
there
we'll
you
be
go.
talking about them all.
Yeah, and this one marks the first appearance of Nico on drums.
Nico McBrain, the classic, just amazing drummer.
Yeah, a funny person.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you see him in an interview, it's just a riot. I love him.
Yeah.
So I think something that's going to be very consistently thematic as we talk about each of these songs is that this album is very reflective of the band's literary interests, their cinematic interests. I think it's really cool that, there's going to be something very interesting lyrically to talk about, which is great because I like to focus on lyrics, whereas you, Tino, like to focus...
At least for this album, it's just for every band, it's different, because I'm really much interested in literature and stories and lyrics. But for some reason in Maiden, I usually, I don't know, just get caught by the music so much that I focus a little more on that particular aspect. So we're gonna combine these things now. That's cool to do it track by track together. By the way, Speaking of Maiden, I'm in the Netherlands, and over here, hard rock and metal is not, really mainstream. It's not totally underground either, because to just mention Maiden, they play outdoor stadiums over here, and they just played one a couple weeks ago, which is funny, and the press was super happy to tell us that they're still so strong, and they're never gonna, they're never gonna, it's gonna stay this way. That's what they said.
Well, that's really good. I love that. So I think there's really nothing else to say but to dive into this track by track review. So here we are with the first track, Where Eagles Dare. What would you have to say about this song here, Tino?
It's a really, really interesting opener because, that atmosphere comes right at you. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of a rhythm fest, which is, very good, I guess, to introduce your new drummer with. So, and the drums go so well together with the guitars, and from there you get, some interesting riffs. That's gonna happen a lot on this album, and sometimes I'm gonna mention that. And so that's where the album kicks in, and it's a pretty strong song. Mm-hmm. Very special is that they have a couple sound effects towards the end, and war sounds. I'm not a particular fan of war sounds, but this thing is done so damn well. It goes perfectly together with the kind of howling guitars. Absolutely. Something that Metallica would do 1 year later on their cover version of Blitzkrieg, originally by Blitzkrieg. And but Maiden did it first.
Right.
So
really kind of popularized that use of war sounds. So which, that's very fitting for the subject matter of this song, because it's based on a World War II film of the same name, Where Eagles Dare, where it's about a rescue mission. So it's I think the music does kind of help tie together that sort of intensity that's involved in a rescue mission and that's in war. So I think I agree that it's a really strong opener, a really great way to introduce Nico McBrain to the world. So as always, I'm going to be rating each of these songs, and Tino will be rating them with me. So Where Eagles Dare gets a 4 out of 5 for me, because while I do like it, it's not one of my top tier favorites. So what would you rate this, Tino?
A 5 out of 5.
All right. So
4 out of 5 is pretty well too.
Right.
I must say so. We're all happy.
Track 2 is Revelations. So this is one of Maiden's more recognizable songs in a live set, I would say. I really like that it's about just sort of Aleister Crowley and the occult and these very mystical influences in the song, but the first verse is actually taken from the English hymnal, which was written by G.K. Chesterton, who is a philosopher, and so on and so forth. So I think it's really interesting to see these two different ideas of like a verse from an English hymnal paired with the occult and what some people back in the day in the 1980s would find pretty scary. So
yeah, it's a good song for storytelling, because this is kind of a mid-tempo towards slow, actually. And so we really get the other side of Iron Maiden. It gets fast later with a little transition, and that's one of those pieces where it goes to a massive riff that will stay with you for a little while. Like the it. So it's really strong.
I do love that just shift back and forth between some more intense moments to more calm, chill.
Yeah, And there's a semi-acoustic guitar too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
You just kind of float along with those, like, softer moments on the song, which is kind of a weird way to put it, but I think it really kind of takes you by the hand and just like, here, just let's drift you through the clouds for a while. It's weird, but hey. So I would rate Revelations a 3 out of 5 because it is a really good song. For me, it's one of those I could probably easily skip just because it tends to linger a bit longer than I like. I like more fast, intense moment songs. So
okay, I'm gonna be a little more patient with this one and just give it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, if you know me, if you listen to this podcast, you know I just like fast, a lot of very fast all the time. But that's okay. So we're at the first single that came off this album, Flight of Icarus. So I know I just said a moment ago that I prefer faster stuff, but this is one of my favorite songs off the album, even though it's more mid-tempo. So yeah, I really like it because its inspiration is very clear. Using Greek mythology, the story of Icarus.
Yeah.
I find Greek mythology quite fascinating. There's a lot of really interesting stories from there.
And they still live on today, even through Iron Maiden, so that really works.
Right? Yeah, they twist the myth a little bit, but you know, I think it's even an interesting take on it. So right,
yeah. Well, it's it's a marching song. Marching not as like the army, but just having a good walk. You could still sing along. It's a good sing along, I guess. So
it's got that like very consistent sort of throughout the whole song, like tempo and beat and stuff. So like it is really easy to see what you say. Yeah. Oh, me too. One of my favorite parts of the song is just how towards the end of it, you know, when they're going through one of the last choruses, and Bruce Dickinson just is holding this note as he's singing "Fly" for like 7 years. It feels like
he can do it.
He can. So I just really appreciate those kind of moments where they just are able to do that sort of thing. So, Flight of Icarus gets a 5 out of 5 for me.
Also from me. There's gonna be some variations later on, but for now we're just
just
all 5 out of 5.
Tino just loves this album.
I do.
So if you're gonna die, gotta die with your boots on. So
yeah, this is one of 2 songs I already knew before I even heard the full album. We used to have a weekly hour of hard rock and metal here on Dutch national radio. It seems like a century ago now, but so I heard the song there. We're into typical Maiden high speed. And that's really good. Something's going on, like a little background vocals or almost yelling if you want. Like
the gang vocals.
Yeah, like if you're gonna die. It's actually more like that. And it's really really catchy. We could use that term a lot on this album. And it's a very brave song. I always say that nobody should ever die, but that's just me.
Right.
But they're just saying that if you're gonna die, you better go like while you're doing something good, something brave, maybe helping out somebody or the world, or so die with your boots on.
Yeah, it is one of those songs with like a certain implied message, even though it's Like, the title is borrowed from an old book about a regiment of Scots Guards in World War II. They seem to like World War II in this album.
Yeah.
It does have, I like that it sort of message behind it, where it's like, if you're gonna do something, or if you want to do something, might as well just do the damn thing, you know? Just go in balls deep, no looking back. So as I was listening to this album for this track by track review, the song really grew on me. So it's a 5 out of 5 for me.
Also for me.
So there you go. So here we are at The Trooper, one of the most classic Maiden songs of all time. You know,
this is the other song I already knew.
Mm-hmm.
And for the vinyl listeners, it's the first track on side 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? This is so catchy that, you know, it kicks in so very well that I believe if you're listening to this, by now it should almost be like a greatest hits record. And, you know, because with the intro, it goes into a classic riff, and it's so good. High speed again, of course. This is so straightforward. Really, really good song.
I freaking love this song. I remember the first time I heard the song was when my high school had a talent show, and there was this kid in my class who was super obsessed with Iron Maiden at the time. And so for what he did for the talent show was he played drums to the Trooper, and so the drumming I expected from him. So, but the when I heard the song, I was like, this is a pretty okay song. And then later, I would be talking to him, and I was like, I kind of want to get into Iron Maiden. He's like, oh, that song I played at the talent show was by Iron Maiden. It's called The Trooper. And I'm like, oh, that is a good song. So so that was my first introduction to Maiden.
From there it's just contagious.
Yeah, exactly. So this is it's quite evident, the sort of subject matter of the song. It's about wars, particularly the charge of the Light Brigade at the Battle of Balaclava during the Crimean War. That's a lot of words to say at once, but here we are. But I think it's told in a way where it seems a bit universal. It's not just one particular war, but there's been so many wars through history. You could probably use the song for any of them, really. So,
like mythology, actually.
Yeah, it's applicable in a lot of cases. One thing I think about a lot with this song too, is, you know, the documentary Flight 666. When they're playing this song in Japan, and I was just thinking about how just kind of amazing and hilarious and kind of great it is that Bruce Dickinson is just waving the British flag to the song in so many different countries, and people just accept that. You know, I feel like that could be a
it's
gesture.
a lot easier over here where I am, because they helped us to get those Nazis away.
So there you go.
Well, believe me, in those other countries, they probably hate the Nazis too. So
I just think it's just so great. So the song is just classic. Of course, it gets a 5 out of 5 for me. Not just because I love the song so much, but also because I have a flag of Iron Maiden inspired by the Trooper hanging over my bed. So it's like,
yeah. How can you not do? Yeah. Right. It's a 5 out of 5 for me.
So.
Too.
What ho, said the ting with the 3 bonds not middle with the thing you don't understand, belch. Guess where that's from?
Well, I had to figure it out. Of course, okay, so this is Still Life, the next track. And it's, spoken backwards by Nico, which is very, with his funny voice, because we know he has a funny voice. He can do a lot of funny voices. It's basically an impression of the actor John Bird doing an impression of this dictator Amin from back in the day. And so it's actually a joke with a lot of layers.
It's kind of taking the piss with regard to accusations of Satanism that were thrown at Maiden, especially in that sort of time frame with, the PMRC being super paranoid about heavy metal corrupting the children and all that. So,
and it's very, very sad. It had to happen on this album where you get, as far as we understand at least, so much just nice stuff. There's no Satan in here.
That was the last record.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem. So it's very ironic and a bit sad, actually.
So I enjoy the deliberate backwards message in here, though. I love the content of the song itself. Lyrically, it's inspired by a Lovecraftian tale called the Inhabitant of the Lake, where this guy just swears he sees something in the lake, and he's telling people this. It's driving him mad, and finally he just takes his lover in there to just so that they can see it together. It's like, it's there, I swear. So I think that's really cool. This sort of horror inspiration in there, plus this just underlying paranoia that you hear in Bruce's voice as he's singing this to really set the mood of what the story is.
Yeah, musically, it's a song that builds up. It might throw some people off who really enjoyed like the song so far, with so much straightforward stuff going on. But that doesn't throw me off. It's you get different musical parts at some time, and it's a great listening experience, and it really this stuff really helps to also get into into the message, into the story. So it works. It works pretty well.
So this is one of my favorite songs off this album, so it's a 5 out of 5 for me.
Cool. I'm stuck with a 4 out of 5 here.
All right.
So we're reversing roles here.
Now I'm being more generous. So we're now at Quest for Fire. That's a bad way to sing it. But this is probably what one might, like, a lot of people might find a bit silly, because it's a song that starts with the lyric, like, at a time when the dinosaurs walked the earth. Like, they'd probably be thinking, like, what the fuck? But
yeah, just use your imagination.
Right. But I enjoy it. It's the inspiration, let's start there, I should say. The inspiration for the song is a film by the same name, which is about a struggle between cavemen for control of fire. It's about this sort of power struggle. Whoever controls fire, is the leader, essentially. While I haven't seen that particular movie, it still gives me it reminds me of this, the very early episodes of Doctor Who, where there's a few episode arc about this exact sort of thing.
They were probably fans of Doctor Who.
Oh, they definitely, I know for sure Bruce Dickinson is a fan, so it would be no surprise to me there. So I think I really like that. It gives me that sort of reminder. What does it say to you musically?
It's quite funny, because this is not a marching song, except this marching is a bit a bit crooked. It's it's funny. It's like you're walking and try to do a folkloristic dance at the same time. So it's but it's nice. It's just not one of my favorite songs.
I can agree there. So that's what it gives me I give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, me too.
So
3 out of 5.
Here we are at what I would probably say is the most repetitious experience of the album with Sun and Steel.
This is the classic anthem of Iron Maiden. It's high speed, it's super catchy. It's really great.
It is.
You get everything and then I like when in the chorus he goes like, "Life is like a wheel."
It's just so
and stuff.
It
might be silly, but it's okay. And it ends with the line, "Life is like a wheel and it's running still."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I like that kind of optimistic view.
Yeah, I think it's a really good song, even if it seems a little bit silly. Which I think what is hard rock and heavy metal without a little silliness or a lot every now and again. I like a band called
a lot
Powerwolf,
of this song ticks a lot of boxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the inspiration is about samurai, so it's kind of about this there's a lot of not a lot, because you hear mostly the chorus over and over again. There's like 2 actual verses in the whole song, I think, but there's still that just talk about
gets stuck in your mind.
Yeah, there's just talk a lot of what samurai go through or have gone through, because this was a long time ago. So I do have to also just emphasize again that life is like a wheel. It's like a circle of life sort of thing. I love that. Plus
sunrise. Yeah,
it gets in your head. Plus it's life is like a wheel. So it's this chorus, it seems, because it keeps rolling on and on. So it's just gonna repeat itself until it like fades out. I just love it. So what would you... anything else to add as far as musically, though, I should say?
No, it's I just said everything. Just a 5 out of 5.
It's a 4 out of 5 for me.
What?
We think we've been through this. It's
it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
We have reached the end of the album here, To Tame a Land. It seems like only yesterday we were starting this album. No, that's a bad joke. For real though, this is a song that's again very reflective of literary interest, inspired by the novel Dune by Frank Herbert. So it's a sci-fi inspired one, which is a little bit
like a Planet of Sand, right?
Yeah, it's
I heard about this.
Yeah.
Well, I heard about more of the stuff you mentioned, but I'm just coming to this conclusion right now.
Right. So it's about I think one of the sort of big things that's highlighted in this, I think that's really great with any sort of sci-fi any sort of sci-fi storytelling, is this there's a theme of struggles of colonialism, and there's like wish to expand empires, and it all just sort of hinges on control of this orange spice on this planet Arrakis. So it might be one of those songs that seems pretty silly to a lot of people, but I think it's still really good, and it's
I think everybody I know who read the book just got sucked in so much that it must mean something to you. It can't be other.
Oh, absolutely. I think good sci-fi has something to say. So That's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My friend always says that like they all basically say everything is gonna fall apart.
Right.
But it's just in real short.
Right. So.
But this song is pretty surprising because they choose a couple of different guitar sounds, maybe even some other key, but I'm not sure of that. And again, we get some different parts in the song, and a great solo. So I think it's I really prefer people a band to do this to close out an album. Except, instead of, doing something really slow to wind everything down.
Right.
So again, I think this kind of soundtrack, we didn't really talk about soundtracks, like where, like Sun and Steel could be like dogs running,
right?
As I look at it. And this one is just a perfect soundtrack to the story they're telling. So, and if you're a fan of Iron Maiden, just be you can be very proud that they have this material to write songs about, and where some people might even come up to you and say, "Oh, all rock and metal is just silly stuff." No, it's not.
There's a lot of serious inspiration and a lot of in a lot of lyrics and the different stories that people want to tell or retell in this case. So
yeah, so I'm giving this a 4 out of 5.
This one is a 5 out of 5 for me.
Good.
So. So that's gonna do it as far as the track by track portion. Do you have any overall thoughts on this album?
No, just other than it's it gets you so well in the mood that you probably want to go on with some other Maiden album to listen to, just back to back. And why not Power Slave, or why not just like Seventh Son or something later from later. Just try everything. But this will whet your appetite. I'm sure.
It's a really good album, like I said, very reflective of their literary and film interests. Yeah. So
didn't somebody say that this is like the most metal album they made?
Yeah, there was a review. Let me pull that up right now. That I read a while ago where in preparation for this track by track review, which side note, we've been spending forever trying to get this track by track review together. It's ridiculous. But anyway, that aside, it was a review from Metal Assault.
It's for good music, so
yeah, with when they were looking at this album when in its 30-year anniversary, so this was 2013. So it's
debatable if what they said. I mean,
they did say it's it's the most metal.
Yeah, okay, it's good metal, so it kind of makes sense. But it's they made more good metal albums. Mm-hmm. So it's it all comes down to definitions, and they might be a bit different from music lover to music lover. Let's put it this way.
Right. So this was a very fun time doing this track by track review with you, Tino. Is there where can people find you if they would like to know or follow you?
Well, I think it's appropriate because your show is also on Mixcloud. Mm-hmm. I do a thing on Mixcloud. It's called Sliver Radio. Mm-hmm. Do you know where the word sliver comes from, by the way?
You said that was Nirvana song, right?
Yeah. It's a B-side, and it's a very nice song. But, I just needed a nice sounding name. So what I basically do is it's officially it's a Mixcloud, but people put their podcasts and radio shows on there, and it's kind of a mix of all these things. But it's just music, and it's music if you like, especially guitar music with a little energy. You're probably gonna enjoy it. And if you're a true rocker and you think all indie and alternative sucks, I might occasionally even surprise you, because if you dig deep, you can, because that's what I do for you. And then sometimes old stuff, sometimes very new stuff. And then it's basically on mixcloud.com and then /TinoFella, which is then it pulls up all the recent episodes. But if you want to look for Sliver Radio episode 005 from a while ago, that was a metal special, and there might be a couple more in the future. But I pulled out some very interesting metal tracks.
Oh, definitely.
So if you're into that, just give it a try.
It's some good stuff that you put together. So I'll put that link in the description. You can also follow Tino on Twitter at TinoFella. That's where we first met, actually, because we listened to the same podcast a long time ago. I feel ancient at this point. But so
no, it's good. We know the game. That's at least as listeners. I don't want
right. So
go too much further, but further.
So yeah,
but
so
you do a great show.
Oh, thank you. I try my best. I only do my best. So, give Tino a follow, and while you're following him, go ahead and follow me if you haven't somehow already. On Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, Instagram, and Mixcloud, I am LovelyMetalhead. Give me a follow on there and engage with me on the platforms. And why don't you share the show with a friend? Please, I need a bigger audience. But yeah. Tell your friends to follow me as well. Tell your friends to follow Tino as well, and we'll just all have a good time. How does that sound?
Yeah, just all be friends. So that's good.
Right. So until next week, next Saturday, the next episode of Lovely Talks Heavy. You stay brutal, my friends. Bye.